Well, the biggest thing, the first thing is finally finding, getting Trek Nation done. Not just a distributor, but getting it. Is it actually finished now? Or
So
is it still
we have a few editing tweaks that we are still making to it. So technically no, but we have an air month, if you will, planned for it, which will be in November of this year. We have a distributor and a network that you're going to be able to see it on, which is Science Network, and we're really excited to be partnering with them, and that we're going to finally be able to share this with fans. Trek Nation has been obviously a project long coming, and to finally see it, complete and done, and through a network that we understands what we wanted to do with it and what we're trying to accomplish with it. It's a fantastic feeling, to be honest.
This is what I'm nervous about. It's a big story, and we've got an hour and a half to get as much as we can out there. And there's already so much that we've had to cut out. In fact, one of the most difficult things, and I hope people understand, is that my mother, I believe, we're cutting out of it. And not out of disrespect to her, but she deserves her own documentary. I mean, to go into that, the way we had it before, we kind of touched on some issues, and we touched on our relationship, and then we never really went into it again. And it was so open-ended. It was a can of worms that just exploded. And every time we would show it to someone, they'd say, well, how come you never talked about your mom again? Because we don't have time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a hard one, because there's going to be people who say, Rod's a schmuck for not putting his mother in this. I'm putting myself out there, like you say, and there's going to be plenty of strengths in the documentary, and there's going to be plenty of weaknesses, and that's just...
And, it's kind of funny because, I always joke around. I mean, every time we mention Trek Nation, I always talk about how long it's taken. The fact that people who graduated from high school when you announced it are now lawyers and doctors, but some of the kids that are in the original trailer are like adults.
But no, absolutely. And I think that if it wasn't such a personal story to us, and we really didn't want to get it so right, it probably would have been to audiences a long time ago. But we believe that at the end of the day, it's going to be well worth it. We believe that all the pieces have now fallen into place, and that upon seeing it, people will feel like this was worth waiting for, and we understand in a way why it might have taken so long. It truly is, a venture into the world of Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek from a point of view that you've never seen before, and it's a really personal point of view to us.
There are so many directions, and that's part of the reason why it took so long. There was, a strong "Did my daddy love me" element, and I don't mean to make it sound like poor baby Rod, but there was this serious journey that I took to, did my dad really love me? Not that he didn't, but I learned that my father had two different families. He had this Star Trek family that he created, that he went to work every day, and he had his cast and the crew, and they were it was like a family. It really was.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many occasions where, I've gotten quotes where Will Wheaton was like a son to my father. And then he would come home to this family. And then, so there was a question, and also fandom. I mean, he truly loved the fans, and that was the whole family. So it dawned on me that I don't know if I ever got 100% of my father, and I had to sort of deal with this. And that we did that in the documentary, but it became too much of its own story, its own thing, and not strong enough, in my opinion and other people's opinions, that people seeing this would really care. We went back to the father-son, the relationship, and not this poor Rod sort of thing. So it was tricky to figure that out.
So, and I mean, so what is the main? I know that there's always, you guys are playing around with ideas of what will be the thread that links all of it together, or what will be kind of the underlying story. I mean, what did you guys end up deciding doing for that?
I think, if you're talking about the thread, I think if you're talking about what ties it all together, the answer is very simple and very proprietary towards us. It's Rod. To be able to take this journey through the eyes of Gene Roddenberry's only son, the inheritor and heir to the Roddenberry legacy, and the one who, is able to now continue that tradition of what Roddenberry represents and what Star Trek, represents in the world is a very unique one. And at the same time, I think, of course, look, there's no question that in some ways, Gene and the show itself were synonymous. And because of that, to understand Gene, to know Gene, for Rod to be able to comprehend what Gene was all about, you have to go to that touchstone as well as others that we found to really get a full picture of what it is. And I think those two things combined, those themes probably represent what something that's going to carry through that film.
I mean, I know like one of my thoughts on one of the earlier cuts was that in the original trailer for Trek Nation that you did, there's this really cool like home movie stuff and things like that it never really made. Do you see a lot more of that now?
Yes,
or?
yeah.
I thought that was kind of the coolest thing, was seeing seeing the candid aspects of your father and you and things like that. I thought was really interesting, actually.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be more home movies of my father. Of the two of us interacting, maybe not that much more of that. But definitely footage and photos that people have never seen before.
That'd be kind of the draw in as well.
It'll be very unique. And it's so important to me that this is not another A&E biography on Gene Roddenberry. It really needs to be through my eyes. Because that's a unique perspective. It's me finding out things, asking questions, meeting someone else, and saying, "Huh, I didn't know that," and then hunting these things down. So,
how are you? Since this is a project that's been done over a long period of time,
and over again.
How are you blending some of the older elements and some of the newer elements, or did you kind of just go more newer now and take out a lot of the old?
We are. I don't want to say we're taking a different take. We definitely started from scratch again, which we've done a couple of times. So it'll be different from what you've seen, but along the same lines with a lot of the same content, just put together differently.
Yeah, and that's been the trick, because I know like when Trevor and I talked about this earlier, that it's not that people were just shelving it all the time and just say, "Well, come back to it later." It's really, because this is such a personal project. This is there's so much is tied into this that you wanted to make sure that when it was done, it's exactly what you were trying to accomplish.
And I'll take a majority of the responsibility for it taking this long. And I'd love to say that it was me just searching for perfection, but it was also not being able to see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
Every time we'd get to it, I think we had it at 80-90% done and to a place we were happy for most of these years. But it would always be trying to tweak it a little bit more, and then realizing we went too far in one direction or another. And so I've never made a documentary before. I'm one of the people who likes to I like to listen to a lot of different people and then make my own decision.
Yeah.
That's a good thing and a bad thing when you're doing this, because I've gotten so many different points of view of what this should be. When I try to incorporate that into my own, it sort of shifts perspective again. It shifts. And I don't know if this is advice I'd give, but part of me says if you ever have a documentary and you're passionate about it, you do your passion and you get it out there. I don't think it's bad to listen to people, but if you're listening to too many...
Yeah, you get too many voices, too many ideas, and it's tough to kind of center that. At some point, you just have to pick one path and take that way.
And that was my downfall. That was definitely a shortcoming on my end.